and I'm Research Fellow in the University of Sunderland in the Faculty of Arts and Creative Industries. I'm also Project Curator for CoLab Sunderland. I've been collaborating with Creative Fuse North East, which is a collaboration between 5 universities across the North East, on a new commission that brought together lecturers in the Faculty of Arts and Creative Industries and lecturers in the Faculty of Technology in the University of Sunderland. We asked them, with an invitation from Cyberfest 2020, to respond to the theme of cybersecurity. And we're here today in Breeze Creatives at the launch of Cybercage, a new exhibition of installations and animations by artist James Hutchinson, who's going to walk us through the gallery space, animator Nick Lewis, and technologist Sadar Jaff. Over to you, James.
It was lovely to be invited by Suzy to participate in the CoLab project. We've had many discussions on a Friday afternoon, coming up with different ideas and different approaches to making work around the theme of cybersecurity. And there are many strands really to the works. My initial idea was to make a large sculpture, recycling some materials from previous projects. And I was thinking essentially about the idea of a cage. So I'd made several cages, a clay cage, a square cage, using traditional sculpture methods such as clay, and then combining it with photogrammetry to make a digital model, which has then been 3D printed and is going to be in an exhibition in Paris in December as part of the Ars Mathematica IS 2020 exhibition. And for this project, I wanted to work with simple geometric pipe forms, and because I'd been working with 3D printing before and things were very small, I wanted to make something that was a more ambitious scale and maybe more site-specific for this particular venue. So why the cage? Well, I was thinking about the idea of security and whether a cage can be a positive or a negative tool. And my practice goes very much between computer work and the physical world, and I like the idea of a kind of sculpture which would work as a kind of metaphor for this idea of another way of looking at cybersecurity, if you like.
So what were the themes that you and Sadar and Nick started to consider when you first started unpacking this notion of cybersecurity?
Well, with Sadar was very interested in gathering information from tweets. So he was looking at analysing data, and we thought of things which were current at the moment. So obviously COVID-19 and the lockdown happened shortly after we started the project. So one of the obvious things was to look at data around what people were saying about COVID-19 and different ways of searching the data. So in the end, that filtered into the soundtrack of that animation. So what we did was, Sadar sent us literally, I think, millions of tweets, some positive, some negative, different ways of sorting the information. And in the end, we took the first tweet of each day for a particular week, and then used that to generate a sound piece. And I think we made 4 or 5 different sound works, which had this idea of taking data about a current event and manipulating that to generate a sound. So the words are spoken by the computer, obviously using just Microsoft Excel, but we were looking, we considered lots of other ideas as well. We were looking at passwords and ways to make people think about the strength of their passwords. But we felt, I think, in the end that it was maybe a bit literal, and we were looking at ideas like every time the password was put in, the computer would automatically read out the password back to you.
So you almost took it out of this world of technology in some respects, this language and the systems of technology, and you brought it into a more abstract space and potentially underpinned it and played with the language of art to unpack or open up the conversation in various ways. Can you talk us a little bit about maybe going through the works, how you played with that?
Again, I guess we could start here, because this was the this is an original sort of maquette for the cyber cage, and it obviously designed digitally, just using 123D design, very simple modelling, and then it was actually animated in Photoshop, and the textures are a mix of camouflage and abstract painting. And then obviously it's got this soundtrack with the data about COVID, because we were thinking around the idea of, again, cybersecurity. In a way, you're able to take that data and then manipulate it. So it's like you're taking things and using that as your art material. The original one was a cube, and this is a reduced cube to allow for the ceiling height. I should just say I've had some fantastic support from the technicians, the woodwork technician at Sunderland, Graham Bowes, because himself and me, we drilled all the holes in the workshop, we built a jig to construct it. It's just bolted together, and we worked it all out before we actually put it up. So bringing it to the space was slightly stressful, but every hole matched. So thank you, Graham.
Thank you, Graham, indeed.
I was looking at Andrea Slominski and the idea of traps, but also thinking about a cage which lets information in and out, and also about an idealistic future where you wouldn't have to have secrets, so you wouldn't need passwords or security, because the cage would, people wouldn't need to steal ideas or have secrets. Everything would be, utopian, and so it's a cage, but it's maybe a future cage. So again, it's possibly inspired a lot by constructivist artworks, people like Tatlin, and also it's got a curious kind of Japanese feel. So I was thinking, with hindsight, maybe it's maybe more of a kind of Japanese shrine as well. So there's lots of different things, I think, filtering into it, whether that's my interpretation of it or what it actually is. I don't know.
There's something in this exhibition that speaks to scale. Cybercage is of a much bigger scale to other pieces in the exhibition. For example, we've got a piece here by Nick Lewis.
I'm Nick Lewis. I created the codec, which is the artwork that has a group of mirrors. It's got 64 mirrors on it, little 2-centimeter mirrors, and each one of those mirrors is angled slightly differently. There's a image above it that those mirrors reflect, so that when you look at the mirrors from a certain angle, each of those little mirrors is been tilted so that it reflects a different part of the image above. Essentially what's happened is I've taken an image, and it's a heart shape that I drew. I've scrambled it so that there's lots of parts of that image on the image that is on the piece of paper that those little mirrors are reflecting, and those mirrors reassemble that image. So the idea is that it's literally a codec, which is to code and decode. And what I was interested in doing was a visual representation of how we scramble information essentially, and then reassemble it. So the image that I've drawn and that those mirrors are reflecting has been scrambled, and then those mirrors are showing it reassembled. There's a few different approaches to it, or a few different things I was interested in looking at, which was how it looks visually. The idea that you can only see it properly if you look at it from a certain angle. So essentially, it's like a physical interpretation of what you do when you put in a password. So if the password only works if you put in exactly the right characters, and this only really works if you put in, or if you stand in the correct place.
This is another animation. Again, recently I've been working with polychrome sculptures. So the idea was to mix this kind of, it's like a grey city camouflage with very bright colours, and this was to get more of a feel of what the piece would be like in this space. But again, moving between digital and the real object, you're able to get this to do things which the sculpture can't do. And then working with Nick on animating them, you'll see some other animations which the sculptures are manipulated through different software, and they change shape, they grow hair, but they grow hair as they're spinning, and the hair is of different lengths, and the hair moves, and it becomes a kind of, again, a more anthropomorphizing of the artwork. So it becomes like filaments that might be catching the data as it's flicking through cyberspace, if you like. It's kind of hard to explain, so I won't really explain it. I think Nick will screen the animations at the talk. Which is one of the animations that Nick's made is to do with like the idea of unveiling, and this again is some camouflage netting from China, and it's the idea of this kind of unveiling. So this is like a Duchampian concealed sculpture, but the idea in the animation, obviously the shroud comes over the sculpture, and then when the shroud is removed, the sculpture is no longer there. So it's like the cyber cage is being taken away and is completely invisible. So in the end, it seemed better just to separate out the works. And I was thinking very much in terms then maybe of titling the work. So this one, these works I was going to name after viruses. So again, tying it into the cyber crime theme. So this is based on the I Love You virus, which again has links to different animations and different artworks by other people. So this one is I Love You. This one is like named after the Zeus virus because of its kind of temple-like qualities. That one is Rat, and there was another piece which was going to be called Clop, again after a different virus.
These layers of context and meaning. So do you think that this extra mediation, the fact that we've had to, instead of inviting people into this physical space to experience the physicality and the digital kind of context that the work has emerged in, how do you feel that this mediation then through the Zoom context, does it add or detract? It's certainly kind of...
I think, well, for the BA degree show, we did a Zoom opening, and every student showed their website on the Zoom and was able to talk about it and show it off to their friends and family. So it's not the same as having an art exhibition, but it's a gathering of people looking at art, you know, and some things like video can work very well on that, but something where you've got something physical and big and that needs to be experienced in a space. I'll be intrigued to see how it looks on, you know, on Zoom.
Absolutely. Context really is
Yes.
worth thinking about.
Certainly is.
So thank you, Gary, thank you so much.
That's okay.
We'll now hand it over to Nick Lewis, who's going to screen the animation pieces for Cybercage. Thank you.
Good.
Oh, that was a very limp kind of. Go, you do it,
Hey.
Suzy.